Three, two, one, and I keep the two fingers up the whole time.
Go. Welcome, shifties.
It hit the fan.
Welcome. What?
Welcome back to
Prepare to be shifted.
yeah, prepare to be shifted on. Oh my goodness. Today we want to talk about emotions, sensation,
Emotion.
feelings. There's a difference.
Yeah, that big thing.
They're here for a purpose. They're gonna tell you something.
It is an interesting point that feelings and emotions are very similar, but also could be like very different. You could define them differently.
Yeah. Or it would help to define them differently because they do have different purposes.
Yeah. Feelings, I feel like, encapsulate a lot more than just emotions.
Hmm.
But I don't feel like it's like wrong to say that your emotions are feelings
Right.
because it's something that you feel inside you.
Yeah. I'm totally blanking on the difference right now, so hopefully it'll come back to me.
Well, I would say that so feelings, feel the things that you feel inside of you. So your could be your senses. Um, your feelings can also be the accumulation of all the feelings, the sensations in your body that are creating the emotion at that time. So you could say that you feel angry, but like where in your body are you feeling angry? Those are your feelings. The accumulation of all the things that make you emotional in some given way and kind of build up your perspective and your view of what you're seeing at that time.
Right.
Um, so I would say that's probably the difference.
Yeah. I think to add, like, I'm thinking of feeling when we say we're feeling stressed, the feeling um is like a certain pain somewhere in the body, but the conversation or what we make of it is what we usually associate with the feeling stressed, like overwhelmed and all this stuff. We got to be able to name the thing. Um, like right now, what I'm feeling is like this squeezing in my heart, like a heaviness, a pain. Um, I feel nauseous in my belly. I feel sweat coming up in my forehead. Those are things that I can describe their sensations if I don't give them a name. And I think that might be one of the difference. Like I can just feel um what it feels like. When I don't tell the story about it, it's the sensation. And you can sort of that's how I work through whatever it is. If I remove what the story that I'm telling about what's going on in my body, I can hold it in a different way. I can hold each of these aspects in a different way so that they're each being held and they each have my attention. Um, and then that separating it all helps me work through that thing that's going on in my body.
As above, so below. As you understand the things that are underneath lying it all underlying the thing that you're defining as something, it starts to break apart and you just start to see it as something different and your perspective changes and it narrows but broadens and it's almost like you're kind of going under the microscope and like, all right, well, what's actually here? Like, where does that go? And I think I see that a lot with my own whenever I'm doing stick work or like getting stick work on me. It's fun because whenever I'm having the sticks on my body, the massage sticks, and there's pain involved in it. I can almost, if I disassociate from the emotion of the pain, then I can look at the pain and say, where is that going? I can almost follow the nerve back up to my brain. And I do that with my eyes a lot too. It's a meditation technique I kind of have of like, I'm not putting my vision way out here. Like what I'm seeing here isn't necessarily the thing that I'm projected on. Now I'm looking almost just like at the parts of my eyes, like the very edge of my eyes, and saying like being internal about it rather than projecting out there. And it's almost like that projection of self. And so you can project yourself onto the emotions, and almost identify with the emotion with that broader view, that broader label of the accumulation of everything you're feeling. Or you can go down deeper and say, what's there? What are all the rocks and crevices and all the details and cracks and
Mhm.
all the things that are happening closer up?
That reminds me of that book you recommended about the light following the light. I can't remember what it's called anymore.
By Jacob Liberson, something like that.
Being led by the light. I started doing an exercise from there, and sort of along the same lines about, because I get migraines and stuff like that. And I've been looking for different ways to manage the migraines without pills. And after reading that book, it, with the eye exercise, when I can, notice where my vision is while the headache is happening or the migraine is happening, and I tried to set my vision back, like, you know, um, at least 12 inches behind me, 16 inches, so that I'm seeing from way back here instead. It relieves the pressure that I have from the headache, which is usually here. It it varies where it is, but if it's up here, that's where I can help relieve that stress. And that's
Yeah,
just a matter of like, because normally when I have these headaches, I'm just focusing on sending the energy and doing all the things that I know, to all the pressure points and all this stuff. And when that stuff doesn't uh, work, I know that I'm telling a story about how things just don't work on me, how I can't be helped, how you know, I'm just backwards. I don't work like most people, blah blah. All these things that I can hear now, um, and just observing all the stuff that I'm attempting. And yeah, that just distinguishing that there's something else going on along with the headache. Uh, I can try, that's one of the things that did help as well. Is distinguishing it, is separating the emotion, the story, all that. Because the emotions do play an important part, in letting us know what we are attracting, what we're about to manifest. They should just be like, hey, you're feeling this way a little too much, and it's just gonna, I'm gonna make it heavier and heavy for you,
yep,
so that you pay attention to it. And so you wanna pay attention to it, but as an observer, methinks.
yeah. And I think it's interesting how we identify with the kind of the vision, the perspective, the view, the like bigger, and especially the emotion and the story that we're telling about the sensations that we're having in our body. we identify that as ourselves a lot of the times. And uh, again, going back to the stick work, when those times are painful, or I have someone who's really massaging something out of my body, a lot of times I want to identify with that painful experience and be with that thing, but that's when I want to squirm away. That's when I try to get away from it. But then I can project my identity, myself, up into my head, and suddenly the pain's just like, oh yeah, it's happening down there. And I'm not trying to get away from it as much. And it's just kind of like, where are you projecting your identity? But at the same time, I think emotions are really important. I think a lot of times we're running away from our emotions, running away from the pain and the discomfort, and we're always and often seeking that that level of comfort, that level of happiness and joy, those exciting things. And especially with like ADHD, really seeking the things that give that dopamine, that provide that level of attention in a lot of ways. And but I think the emotion, the pain, the suffering, and even the joy, and all these different things really give us the opportunity to move ourselves. It's like motivation to act in life. If you, it's almost like this great sensation that happens because of desire, and it helps create desire, it helps form desire, it helps form the action that happens in our lives, the action that comes out of our bodies. And I think it ties really nicely into that definition of emotion, energy, what people say is energy in motion. And it's the energy flowing through our bodies and also projecting out of us, flowing out of our bodies into the world around us.
I was just thinking, can you imagine if we were able to distinguish these things and see all of the stuff that comes up as if it's a dear friend, somebody really close, loved one, right? Rather than who we think we are because of these things, like
Yeah.
what we say about ourselves, the meaning we make out of all the things that are trying to flow through us. If we could just learn to just listen to it, just be with it. What a difference it would make.
Yeah. It reminds me of the Isha Kriya. And I this was something that kind of gave me a little bit of an existential crisis at the moment, for a moment. Um, but with the Isha Kriya, it's a mantra where you're saying, "I am not the body, I am not the mind," and you're breathing in, "I am not the body," you're breathing out, "I am not the mind," and made me realize that my body, because the body and mind are inseparably connected. So like the things that are happening in your body, they it's going to form thoughts and imagery in the mind, and what's happening in the mind is also going to create sensations in the body, just like the stories do. And when I realized that I am not my body, I am not this physical manifestation, that I'm something more, or there's like a consciousness, an observer that's outside of myself, I realized that my body is nothing more than just like a pet that I get to exist in. It's like this. Yeah, I mean, it's like this other, it's like its own entity, its own creature, its own intelligence, a community working together to create this physical experience that I have. And for me, that disassociation from my body helped me have this greater desire to listen to it, to realize that I wanted to honor the intelligence that's inside my body. Honor the emotions that are happening, honor the things that are saying, that my body communicates to me and says, hey, this is what's going on, this is what we're feeling, this is what we're thinking, can you help take care of us? And and it's interesting that as we give our body kind of that its own agency to work for itself, that it starts to work even more and even better on our own behalf, on
Mhm.
behalf of us. um, and and I think that's just a beautiful thing to be able to do, of like give your body back its own ability to work, to trust your body, and to allow it to communicate to you the things that it knows is happening.
And not just this is what we're feeling and what we're thinking. This is like the stuff that we've been holding on for generations. This is what we carried into your body that needs to be held, and because it's been unresolved and it's just been passed on and passed on. So for you, for somebody to be brave enough to deal with it, or hold it, and let it process, I think. Ooh, there's a lot of stuff going on in my body. Like, the more it seems like the more I hold and send love to, and just hear out, the more that just wants to come up and be held and loved. Once you start this process, it's just, for me at least, that's been my experience. It's gotten intense because there's
Yeah,
been so much that needs to be loved on, and just work through. Ugh, I just got emotional with that. I'm thinking of The Matrix. I just saw it again recently, and I felt super grounded. And I thought, because the purpose of that is like to learn to free the mind. And, while Neo did it like within a short amount of time, um, I'm taking my time with it. I'm like, do I really want to detach myself that much,
yeah,
from this, knowing just how much I hold in this body? And if I just leave it, it's going to be left for someone else to resolve, right? Because they say that what you resolve, what you help resolve, helps resolve it for, even if you're not having kids, you're helping resolve that thing for the family, for the ancestors and all that. Because I don't got kids. Yeah, yeah. Stuff is just moving around in here. It's getting a little intense, but I got you. Let's do this.
yeah. It is crazy how we start this process, and our body's like, oh, you're listening now, let me tell you everything.
Yeah.
And it's like the more trust you give it, the more it's going to give.
Mhm.
And
Have a seat. I'm gonna make you dizzy for a little bit so you can pay attention.
yeah, I'm gonna make you want to disassociate again,
Yeah.
or want to go somewhere else and distract yourself. And I think in my own journey, I've questioned. There's been a lot of times I've questioned, like, am I psychotic? Am I like what is going on with me and my emotions, and what is it that my emotions are breaking down all around me? Like, are these things really things that I want?
Right.
But as I sit with them and let them be there, I give it that empathy. I give my own emotions empathy, and just listen, and know that the things that are coming up are okay, and they're not terrible and uncomfortable and all these different things, but they're just what's happening now. you know you asked me, like, as soon as we got on here, you're like, how are you? And I'm like, I am here. because that's kind of just how I feel right now. Is like I don't know. I don't really feel like I'm like have any sort of huge emotion that's driving me right now. It's kind of just I'm here and I'm happy with that. And so it's kind of fun to I don't know, have that aspect um of yeah, feeling the emotions, but then eventually you kind of like yeah, emotions are okay and they drive us and they push us to do things and sometimes they just need to be listened to.
Mm. It reminds me of a 3-day panic attack I had. I don't know if it just happened since the last call or if it happened before that, and I don't know if I mentioned it, but for like 3 days out of nowhere, like I couldn't figure out what I was feeling panicked about. And and I was trying to, look at what was the last thing that I looked at, like right before this, what were the conversations, just inspecting everything to see if it actually came from something that happened like right before that. And the more that I just like um, looked for it, the more I realized it probably doesn't have a concrete answer like that. I should just let it exist, just keep holding it, see what comes up on its own. And the more I did that, the more I realized it's not mine. I'm not feeling my stuff. And it's that possibly that it could be just the collective stuff, all the stuff that we're going through as a people. Um and then I start hearing all of the stuff that our like more intimate community is going through. I'm like, well, it could be that too, because they're all going through some pretty heavy things and working through intense emotions and um entertaining these things that yeah, it could possibly be these things. And I'm just gonna let it keep existing, keep going. It took me 3 days to get through that.
Yeah.
I had to get to that point of not telling a story about it, just letting it reveal whatever it wants to reveal and holding it unconditionally.
Yeah. I think a lot of times it's getting away from that story that we're telling. I was reading something that my one of my trainers has sent out recently, and he talked about all these traumas have happened to us in the past, but what's happening right now? What's happening in this moment? All these things that we're creating in our mind and in our head about all the different things in life, but we're missing the sunset, we're missing the rain, we're missing all of these different sensations that are happening right now. And we're trying to create stories about the sensations. But what happens when you just take away the story and really be here now, and really be in this present moment?
Mhm.
And a lot of times, a lot of our strife just kind of starts going away once you take away the story.
Funny what came up is something that's been coming up for me anytime we have conversations or kind of surrounding this topic, because one of my upsets is if I was just basing on what's going on right now, I wouldn't be in this condition. And I've attempted to do all of the all of the suggestions and everything that people have about manifesting or healing yourself and all that. And that's been one of my frustrations when I go a certain amount of time with doing all the right things. And then 4 years later, tomorrow's my 4-year anniversary from this injury. I'm expecting to be a lot better because I'm doing all of the right things. And that brings, to mind, um, just that there are things that are a little bit more pervasive, more like they don't want you to move on from those things because there's some sort of development that you're getting out of it. And by allowing this stuff, because it's frustrating at times. Like I'll have like really weak moments where I'm like, I'm just done fighting for my life. I'm done, going through all of this stuff. But when I think about what it's made out of me and how I experience my energy medicine now, um, I just want to really just let myself go into it. That's when I start complaining. That's when I start telling the story. That's when I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna lean right into it. Because this one doesn't want to just let me mm, um do what I know that I can do, which is heal quickly and immediately.
Yeah.
Because I have the experience of it. And I keep getting messages that like, nah, this one is you're supposed to hold on to this one for a little bit. There's more stuff in there for you. Like I think I mentioned it last week. From doing all of this work, I actually levitated for a few seconds, um, because I'm willing to go deep and go dark and just deal with all of the stuff that's had in this position that I could have swore I should have been able to heal like a long time ago, right? Because I know myself. I know I know what I'm capable of. And since childhood I've known this stuff. Which is why it doesn't make sense. Like why, if I'm doing what I know to do, why is it not working? Why am I still in this condition? What's wrong with me? It does create uh like a glitch in my head, like what the hell did this the head injuries really mess me up that bad? um all that. So yeah, I mean, not everything's going to be easy. Some things are meant to be dwelt in for a little bit,
Yeah.
because I was all pumped up after watching The Matrix. I was like, all right, this is it, I'm out of this. I was super grounded and like freeing my mind, and then this crap.
Yeah, and I think about a lot of the training that I've had, and I look at my trainer and what he's kind of taught me with all the breath work and the physical movement um and the stick work and all these different all these different techniques to what he says, retrain yourself to feel good. Retrain your body to just be happy all the time. Um but I look at that and I've used breath work to like cover up on my emotions, to like get rid of my emotion that I was feeling at the time. Like as if I was getting some high off, it was like a cigarette or something. I'd go and do my breath work and then I'd feel good for a little bit. But then it didn't really deal with the emotion that was happening at the time. Why was that emotion there? And that emotion kept coming up over and over and over again until finally I, started making decisions weren't that were how like that the emotion was driving me towards. I had to sit in that depression. I had to sit in that anxiety and sit in the all of these things that I was feeling until I got so rebellious and tired of sitting in that I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go do this thing, and that lifted the depression from me. I was like, oh, there's my freedom. There's my ability to act. There's my ability to open the box and step out, and so I think breath work and meditation and all these different things have such a beautiful thing but there's something to be said about sitting in that emotion and sitting in it long enough to be like, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to move towards the lesson that my emotions are trying to tell me. You know, what my body is trying to tell me about the lifestyle or about the whatever that I'm currently living. You know, those emotions will drive me out of that place because either, and I think sometimes we have this thing where like the emotions are driving us to almost end our life in some ways, and we get suicidal or we get, you know, really depressive. But I've kind of taken it as that signal of just let things die. Let the things that are happening in your life die, because life will keep going without all of those things. But if we're identifying ourselves with all of these different things in life, and those things are controlling our emotions, then we've put our own slavery on the things that are outside of ourselves. And if we really want to be free of that, then we have to be willing to let go and let the thing that we've identified with kind of die inside of us. You know, I feel like suicidal thoughts and suicidal ideation a lot of times is something inside of us wants to die, and it comes up as I'm going to end my life. But what if you just ended the thing that was causing that suffering in your life, and you just said, I don't want it anymore.
Yeah, if only we can, get that message across to more people, when they are feeling that way, because oh, there's so much um that needs held in this world. For
Yeah.
me, um, what's been I guess sort of the underlying thing that I need to sit through is, pretty much my whole life, because I don't remember my childhood after a fatal car crash that I survived. Oh, my light. I guess we've been on for an hour. My sunlight, this is the only sunlight I get. Um, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. From since uh since childhood, I don't remember having feelings because I don't remember a lot of my childhood after the accident. And then after the accident, I just couldn't feel emotions. That was the first time I noticed that I couldn't feel because I was indifferent to everything ever since then. Um, so my whole thing is has been, since I was 16, wanting to feel connected to others. Like I'm not heartless, like I'm not just, a machine or whatever. So I've been seeking being able to be loved and being able to love. Like I didn't know I was so loved because I couldn't feel it. I didn't think it was true if I couldn't feel it. So I didn't know how loved I was back then. I just kept seeking it. I kept thinking I'm just never going to be in love. Um, and then when I ended up, you know, being admitting that I was attracted to the female folks, the what is she calls it the shaped bodies, um, huh,
What bodies?
girl shaped people.
Ah,
Uh, when I admitted that to myself, at least I had the physical sensation, and I made that, um, you know, I made that the connection for me. But then going through these experiences where now I think I have to have like some deep emotion or something going on in these relationships because I'm still not feeling that connection. So I think it's still, I'm just not meeting the right people, and maybe all this. I'm thinking maybe I'm ace or whatever, and because all I had is the physical, and at least that was something that I felt with the girl shaped people and not the boy shaped people. So for me, all of this has been showing me what I've been, now that I can, that I've regained empathy, that I can feel things and I feel them intensely. I've noticed all the patterns that I've put in place when I couldn't feel, uh, that have been getting in the way of having a healthy relationship now. And I keep getting these messages that this is my initiation into that realm of relationship, the thing that I've been seeking my entire life. And had I known how to understand emotions and feelings and sensations, I wouldn't be this messed up, right? I would have had, because it's a lifetime full of just misunderstanding what's been going on. So I'm getting all of this clarity. I think I'm detoxing right now. I'm sweating like my whole my whole body. Maybe just talking about stuff because that also helps. Last night I realized how mean I was being about myself because I was talking to a mutual friend, and when I heard myself say this out loud to her, I said something like, relating to her stuff about her appearance and how she wants to present herself in the world. And I said, I've also been through that. I feel that deeply, like, because one of my biggest problems with this whole situation, that the situation my body's been in since my injury, is I no longer look like myself. I don't look like uh, who I am used to seeing, and it's been hard. And I went through a long period that only ended like, maybe a month ago, or a little bit longer, that I was just calling, like, relating to myself, even though I never let myself say these things. I was relating to myself as ugly and gross. But now I have this podcast as a as an incentive, like, to let people see me as ugly and gross, so that it's like a bigger, like, wow, when you see me also be healed. But I'm like, look at what I'm saying about myself. That's kind of gross. That, like, I think I'm over here putting my ugliest self out so that you guys are like, you know, I'm like, that's not nice. Don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a lot of what's happened in our world is that we have so many people out there that just don't know how to, they're afraid of their emotions. And that fear of their emotions, they hold it in and then they burst out into these, terrible fits, or the emotion drives them to do something, that they don't want to do, or it like boxes us in into these personalities that really aren't us. It's kind of this collected personality identity that we have. And if we're willing to feel those emotions and let our kids feel those emotions and let others feel those emotions and not try to create some story about them. I look at some of my relationships and I feel like I have to tiptoe sometimes I because we've created stories around the emotions that somebody else has, or the things that somebody else does or says, or and it just gets very, very sensitive in a lot of ways. And that's an interesting thing too. Recently I read something that about sensitive people, um and kind of, I think he was alluding to like sensitive people being offended a lot. And I feel like in a lot of ways, like as I've gone on my own energy working journey, I've felt the sensations be overwhelming in a lot of ways. And that overwhelming feeling has driven more emotion and more fear in my life in a lot of ways, and sometimes more wanting to dive into the thing that'll distract me. But I also think that becoming, I don't know, it's this weird thing of being sensitive, but also how creative are you? Like how creative is your mind and telling stories about that sensitivity that you're developing or that you have? And maybe you're really sensitive to what somebody else feels or says or does, but then you suddenly got really creative about that, or really creative about that story that you told about that sensitivity, that sensation that you felt. um Actually, I just read a quote by that by I think it was Sadhguru, and he said that people aren't suffering from life; they're suffering from two of the most magnificent things that we have in life. One is an amazing ability to remember things, and the other is this amazing ability to create and to imagine. And so our between our memory and our imagination, we create these stories, we create these things, this narrative, this drama inside our own head that causes us to feel a certain way. And so it's interesting that becoming sensitive sometimes comes along with that story, and we have to figure out, break down the story from sensitivity.
It makes me want to talk about imagination
Yeah,
next. Yeah,
we'll have to do imagination next.
yeah, we'll have to do because there's so much that can be said on
I'll
imagine.
add to our list.
Ooh, can't wait. Yeah. Ugh, our imagination. What a wonderful thing. uh, it also reminds me of our teachers. One of her posts on, I don't know if it was a post or if it was in alchemy class. When she's talking about like the stuff that comes to our, you know, the stuff that we tell about a situation that can be professionally produced. Like, it is. It's so creative, the things that we come up with, that we write about what people are thinking and doing and all against us, and
Oh yeah,
it's all they're doing that because of this, right? We're
we are professional drama makers. That is what we do in our culture.
we can also be lawyers with all this evidence that we collect.
Oh yeah, I was writing a poem recently, and I think two of the lines that I was trying to put in there was, trying to tell the truth as if you were a sleuth. You know, trying to, like, you have this perspective and you're seeing all this evidence, and you think you're telling the truth with all this evidence, but really you're just supporting, you're like projecting your own perspective out there about the thing that you want, and you're giving yourself evidence and more evidence and more evidence until you've created this huge drama, this huge story.
That's one of the things that I learned in, my landmark days, is like people are more committed to being right than they are to the truth. And we to having relationship works and all that work. And ugh, it's all right. We got this. That kind of that kind of feels good, actually. Little massage. Uh having our yeah, being right, because people only exist in how we make them out to be. Like they can't be anybody different around us. Now imagine being somebody that can be free to be themselves around you. Um, because they don't like being that person for you. They didn't choose to. You chose that for them. You chose that role because of what you made their humanity mean about them and the type of person that they are. But if we don't know how to not make that meaning about us, we can't have that. We can't hold space. We can't grant that space for others. Um, and there were so many people that, with the whole landmark thing, that would they pointed this out in class. It's like, have you noticed that um once you went through your transformation, everybody else just automatically seemed to change around you, right? They're no longer the same people because you don't hold that vision anymore. You've given them freedom to be who they actually are or who they're trying to be. Now you can actually hear them in a new way. You get to remove your stories and get to authentically know the potential that they are, or what they want to be seen as, because you can hear them in a different way now that you're not bogged down with all of the stuff that you've said about yourself and why people like that would behave a certain way around you, right? You can literally change people just by changing and learning to not say all this stuff about yourself, not make meaning. Hold
You are me and I am you, and the whole universe, your whole world exists just right up here, right up in your mind. The people that you see, it's all your own creation. How you interpret things and how you see them for the thing that you see them to be.
I think in the communications courses, the the phenomenon that this is like I'm creating you, creating me, creating you. You know, it's like you just keep creating each other, whether it's for each other's benefit or not. But like, I mean, so many relationships could have gotten restored, just from realizing that most of what you say is a projection. These are little, this is how people are, little mirrors of you, little projections of, or reflections of you, is that you can only pick up on what somehow resonates within you, right? Based on the emotion that you feel on either whether they are doing something you love or hate, uh, about yourself, or what you would not like to do. And I think we talked about that last week. So yeah,
Yep. Yep. I think there's a lot of healing that we can do just by looking at other people and just giving them their freedom and not projecting onto them.
yeah,
But
starting.
sometimes we need to look at that too and just like look at them for how you see them to be so that you can recognize
Yeah,
how do you see them.
yeah, what's this telling me about this emotion that's going on here? Because that's something unresolved in me. That's the emotion I need to follow, because that's where whatever is out of whack within me just wants to be held and heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, always starts from within.
Always starts within. Follow the emotions.
Never works to point at somebody else. You doing this, it's your fault. It's because you're this way. Oh.
There's three fingers pointing towards you
And
with everyone you.
one to God.
It's your fault.
You two, me three.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else for you?
That's all I got. Thanks
Alright.
for joining us, Shifties.
Well, thanks for
Now
coming shift with us. Shoot the
go
shit.
splat and shift on the rest of the world.
Yeah. Splatter it around, right? All right. The end. Love you. In hearts.